Battle of the Bulge. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words of the developer. Battle of the Bulge is a fast-paced World War II game where precise movement and detailed planning make the difference between a vain attempt and a brave operation. Before I go on with this game review, I need to educate people on what happened in World War II, because a lot of people think World War II was between the Americans and the Germans. So what happened was, Germany decided that they wanted to have Europe back for themselves. So they started invading everywhere, Czechoslovakia, Poland, and they just basically steamed across Europe. Britain immediately sent troops over, a lot of them were already there, and they were with the French. Now the French said, hey, don't worry, we have a plan. This is called the Maginot Line. It is a line of fortifications. No tank will ever cross it. And Hitler, being Hitler, looked at the scale of this and thought, the Schweinhunds have made the line across France, and the Belgians in the borders all the way down to there. The Schweinhunden Piggenhausens. We will go round the Maginot Line and crush them from the rear. And that's what they did. Sorry about my accents, they're very bad. But yeah, the Germans went around the Maginot Line. See, the French never actually thought about this. They didn't think it through, you know what I'm saying? They just kind of made this line and the Germans went round the fucker. And that's what happened. And the British says, f*** this for a game of dominoes. We dived back on our ships at Dunkirk and just left all the Europeans to just get on with it. And we retreated back to England and reformed. And the Germans swept through Europe and took everything. Europe just fell so quickly. It was embarrassing, guys. Embarrassing. And so Britain got on the phone to America and said, alright lads, got a bit of a bother going on here. We could do with a bit of help, you know. And the Americans said, F*** you motherfucker. And then Germany says, right, we will now crush the Englanders. And so the Germans sent a lot of troops, tanks and everything to France, ready to cross the channel to invade England. However, we had an RAF, and so the Germans had to get rid of our planes, and that was what the Battle of Britain was for, you know. There was all the fucking German Luftwaffe, Schweinhunden, Piggenhausen, Pig, Schweinhund, Schweinsort, Don, Takula. All them lot came over, and we had our planes, and there was a big fight in the skies. Yeah. Actually, I'll give you some sound effects. This is kind of what it must have sounded like for the poor people. And we won. So the Germany cancelled Operation Sea Lion, which was the code name for to come over and kick our asses, and decided, oh, f*** them, die on your f***ing island, you Schweinhunds. And they went and had a go at Russia. So we said, okay. We said to the Canadians, hey, Mounties, do you want to come and give us a hand? And the Canadians said, yeah. Said to the Australians, hey, stop shagging kangaroos, get your ass over here and give us a hand. Good eye, mate, we'll put some shrimps on the barbie when we get there, right? Why did that degenerate into a Birmingham accent? Meanwhile, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and sunk half the fucking American fleet. So that's why America joined the war and eventually dragged their sorry asses over in 1942. And we put together a big plan to go. This has got nothing to do with the Battle of the Bulge, I'm just telling you, kind of. So we made a plan that we were going to go over on D-Day and liberate Europe. So basically lots of Canadians, British and Americans and Australians and pretty much bits of everybody dived on some boats, dived across the sea and liberated the croissant shaggers. We then liberated the chocolate shaggers. Then we liberated the windmill shaggers. We were just liberating one country after another, hard fighting, but we were steamrolling the Krauts, the Germans. And the Germans just pulled back to the Siegfried line. That was their kind of line at Germany. And they were getting trounced. And they were fucked because they were fighting the Russians in the east and the British and Americans in the west, and that they were fucked. But Hitler went, Schweinhunden, Schweinpighausen, Schweinhunden, Schweinschotterdorn, you Schwein. Something like that, which kind of translates into, if we make a big push towards Antwerp, which was a port, a big major port at that time, we can split the armies because the British were kind of in Northern Europe, the Americans were in Southern Europe, and so he thought we'll punch 200,000 Schweinhunds through this hole, separating the two armies, then we can either destroy them separately or hopefully negotiate a truce. That was what he tried to do, and he punched a hole through, and he made a bulge in the line, which is why it's called the Battle of the Bulge. And he essentially cut off the British in the north and the Americans in the south. Fortunately for us, it didn't work. He ground to a halt. He couldn't take Bastogne because it was full of bastards, American bastards, to be honest, who fought a fucking courageous battle. The British were in the north. We were still drinking cups of fucking tea because I think they just discovered Yorkshire tea. I might be wrong on this. I haven't checked the full history, but I think we discovered Yorkshire tea and says, hey, this, we're going to drink fucking tea here. This is great stuff. So we were drinking tea in the north, while the Americans were surrounded at Bastogne, getting their asses kicked, but holding on. And then we were kind of saying, buy this tea. Is this decaf? I don't know, I'm not sure if it's decaf or not, but we were still drinking tea. And then the Americans countered at the south and says, hey, right, Britain, you counter on the same day we go at 0800 hours on the 5th. And we were saying, that, this tea is fucking gorgeous. And we went 3 days later, and we bailed out a few of the American units that were stranded, but all in all there was 55,000 British and 500,000 Americans involved in this. It was a mainly American operation, so they deserve the lion's share of the credit. But it was an amazing battle, biggest in history of World War II, where the Germans steamrolled it through the Ardennes but got stopped by Telly Savalas. At least I think he had something to do with it. But at the end of the day, we pushed them back all the way back to Germany, and the rest is history. So this game focuses on the Battle of the Bulge, specifically the German counter-offensive. It's a turn-based game, and what you do is you play as the Axis or the Allies, and you can choose the general that you want to play against, and they have different traits. One might be cautious, one might be aggressive. And what happens is the main Battle of the Bulge game, where you play the entire Battle of the Bulge from beginning to end, or there are different scenarios that you can choose to play that's based around the Battle of the Bulge. They're all on the same map. For example, one of the scenarios is just the first 3 days, one of them's the last few days, one of them's random, what happens if the units were random around the map, and so on and so forth. But what I like about this game is that it may only be a little tiny game in the grand scope of turn-based games. I mean, I used to play Decision in the Desert by Microprose a long time ago, and Panzer Generals and things, and they were really much bigger than this, and they had a lot more units than this. But there were a lot more money than this. I mean, this is only $6.99. That's right, it's a very cheap game. So what you do is every day you have a certain amount of hours to move, and them hours don't seem to be set in stone. It seems to change. It's a bit of RNG. Now, I hate RNG in any game unless it's tailored correctly. I recently reviewed Regicide, and the RNG in that was shit. Hearthstone's RNG is shit, but in some games it's actually half decent. In this one, it's not brilliant, but it's not horrific either. It does kind of work. I mean, you're not going to get stupid results where you might have a very strong panzer division getting raped off 6 soldiers and 2 civilians with a catapult. It's not that bad. And what happens is, with this game, it's all turn-based. Each player takes a turn to move a unit. Now, you don't move a unit as such. You activate a square where units are. For example, if you have a square, you can see all the maps split up into squares. If you activate a square with 3 units in, you can move all them 3 units on your turn. If you activate a square that only has 1 unit, well, you're only going to be moving 1 unit. So you're not actually moving units per turn, you're activating squares. It has an undo feature, so if you do it wrong, you know, which I don't like. I think the undo should be taken out. And also there's no fog of war, which I don't like. I don't like to know where everything is. I like to kind of move a troop across and, you know, next to a forest and find there's a whole fucking division in the forest, because you wouldn't know that they're in the forest. So I don't like that. I think that's just no, and get on with it. So you do, that's how you move, and then you end your turn. The other player, whether it's a computer or a human, because it is full multiplayer, they take their turn and they move their turn, and then it's your turn, and then it's their turn, and you keep doing that till the day is over. So you're taking turns throughout the day to move your units until the day ends, and then a new day starts. Now, this is what I like about this game. It's quite in depth in the sense of they have recreated the feel of the Battle of the Bulge. You see, reinforcements come, rearmaments come, and you can look at the calendar and see when you're going to get rearmed and all the rest of it. So that's nice as well. Another good thing is, to get resupplied, you have to have a clear set of squares from your unit. If you're a German, you're attacking from the east, so you need a clear row of blocks between your units and the east coast. If the allies get between you and capture, say, a square in between your units and the east coast, it cuts off supply, so your unit won't get any supplies anymore. Now, if that goes on for 2 turns, they become immobile because they run out of ammo, they run out of fuel. If it goes on for 3 turns, if it goes on for 1 turn, they become immobile. If it goes on for 2 or 3 turns, they eventually get where they can't even defend themselves. So when you get units cut off, you've got to liberate them as such to open that supply line, which I think is brilliant. And there's also other things happens. You get commando raids, there's artillery that you can have, which you don't fire it as in there's an artillery piece, fire at that. It just takes it into account. If you're fighting in a square that's in range of artillery, you get a bonus to the attack. And that's how the fighting works in this. It's all about bonuses. You'll notice on the units there's little dots on them. That's how many times that unit can attack when it's engaged in battle. And when you're in battle, you have to look at what you're fighting. For example, infantry are never going to do brilliantly against tanks, but tanks and infantry are going to do well against tanks, and that's how it works. And you've also got to look at the lie of the land. For example, Bastogne is a town on the map, and if you have forces in there, you get a defense bonus. Obviously, you get the defense bonus of buildings and things like that. And so when the Germans move into Bastogne to attack, their first attacks will be soaked up by however many barricades there are between yourselves and the Germans. So you may have 2 barricades there, but they may have 4 attack points. So the first 2 attack points are definitely going to miss. They're going to hit the barricades. And that's how the battles has worked out. So you have to think before you attack. Don't attack units that's heavily defended in towns or in forests even, unless you've got enough attack points to get through. So you use your stronger units as you would in them situations. It's very hard to move units that are fortified in towns, but if you use your strategy right, you can move them. So that's how the game plays out. As I said, you get reinforcements as the battle goes on, which historically accurate reinforcements as well. You can see where they're going to come onto the map by clicking on the calendar, and so you can plan around that. But what I like about this game is that the AI is pretty decent. I mean, when you are playing against the Axis, they just make a rush across the map, and you've got to set up lines and you've got to try and hold them, and it's really good fun. I'm enjoying playing the game. There's quite a bit more to the game for the price, which is quite nice to see. I mean, a lot of games that are this price are so shallow, but this one is reasonably deep. Although you don't have many units, there's only kind of 3 types of units. You've got infantry, tanks and light armor, so there's not a hell of a lot of units there, but you're not going to get a lot of units for the price. But I do like the way that it plays. It's quite frustrating. I mean, I got my arse handed to me on my first few goes. It's just, even now I'm still struggling against it because the AI cuts off your fucking units and you're trying to get them back, and it's annoying. I would like to see a game where there wasn't a timer, where you could just kind of play and play and play till there was no units left, because one of the games where I played the full battle, the game actually ended. I lost, but I might have been able to, if I'd had another 4 or 5 turns to pull it around. But that's the game, isn't it? It's the Battle of the Bulge, and it's set between the time limits. There is replayability with this because there are a few of the scenarios you can play, and then there's the random one. But there's then multiplayer. Now, I haven't played multiplayer, and it's cross-platform to iOS because this began life in 2012 as an iOS game, but it's actually more expensive on the iPad than it is on the PC, which is refreshing, to be honest with you. It's normally the other way around, but you can play against people on the iPads. The trouble is, you have to make an account, and I just don't want to do that. You have to make an account with them to actually play multiplayer, which, why can't we just play through Steam? I mean, I don't know why they do this, so I haven't signed up for that. I know this game isn't going to appeal to everybody, but for the price that it is and the fun that you get, if you're a strategy gamer, then it's worth a buy. It's as simple as that, and I am a strategy gamer, so I'm actually going to thumb this up. If it was any more money than $6.99, I wouldn't be thumbing it up, but I think the price is right for this game, and that's what my channel is. It's about whether a game is actually worth a buy. Obviously, if you're into first-person shooters, you're going to look at this and go, what the f*** is this shit? But that's fair enough, you know? It's like, if you like steaks, great, but if you're a vegetarian, you're not going to like it, are you? So that's what I'm going to say about this game. Battle of the Bulge is definitely worth a buy if you're a strategy gamer. Don't expect hardcore, in-depth strategy, but it will kick your ass. You'll get a good few hours out of this game, certainly will, and you'll get your money's worth. So there you go. Battle of the Bulge has its flaws, but it's still worth a buy.